live. Hey, what's up, Sierra Madre family? Getting YouTube and Facebook and Instagram all tuned up. Got another cool live for you today. Gonna go over a few awesome things. If you're just tuning in and you don't know who I am or who Sierra Madre is, I'm Richard. I'm the founder of Sierra Madre, and we create the most comfortable gear in the wild. And today I want to talk to everybody about something, what I call the number 2 most important thing to getting a comfortable night of sleep in your hammock. It's number 2. If you're tuning in, drop me a comment below. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I'd love to chat and see where everybody's coming in from. But today, let's dive in. Let's go over the number 2 most important thing when it comes to getting a comfortable night of sleep in the wild. And drum roll, please. The anticipation is great. What is the number 2 most important thing in hammock camping, in Richard Rhett's opinion? Well, it is Hammock Sag, which, if you're from an era long ago, sag means something really different. But with hammocks, sag is so important, so important. And so I wanted to talk about sag, and more importantly, how you can achieve the right sag so that you can have a comfortable night of sleep. As you can see here, I've got a couple of different hammocks set up, and the 2 setups represent different amounts of sag. Now, the top is basically no sag. The bottom is what I would call an aggressive or a deep sag. And when I started hammock camping, which was, gosh, it's been over 12 years now. When I started it, all of the guys that got me into it were camping with short hammocks, and they were stretching them out super tight to, I don't know why. I guess they thought that it was going to help them lay more comfortably. I don't know. But they had no sag, and at first that's what I thought was supposed to be, the way to do it. It didn't take me long to realize that all of those guys were really short and I was really tall, and there had to be something missing because I was not comfortable when I was the zero sag hammock. So I started experimenting and found out about ridgelines, and today we'll really spend the most time talking about ridgelines, because ridgelines actually help you achieve that sag. They enable that to happen and make it a reality. There's 2 different types of ridgelines. There's a structural ridgeline and an ornamental ridgeline. Today, I'm just going to be talking about structural ridgelines, but ornamental ridgelines are just used to hang things off of, and they're not really used to give you any type of sag in your hammock. You might have one inside of like a rain fly or a shelter to hang lights off of or something of that nature. But what I want to talk about is the structural ridgeline. And the structural ridgeline is going to produce sag in a nutshell. That's the whole reason of why you want it, really. Let's talk about it. So you can see here I've got a black line going across. Let me show you. This black line going across is the Hammocks Hammocks ridgeline, and then I've got the Explorer hammock set up just to show you kind of what it looks like to not have any sag. It's just attached to the talons over here, and it's really just meant to be an example. And so the structural ridgeline, really, what is it? Well, it attaches to your suspension points, okay, and it basically helps you to fix that point from suspension to suspension, and it is going to give you the ability to set up consistently time and time again and get the same amount of sag. And so different hammocks are going to work with different style or length ridge lines, but ultimately that's it. You want a ridge line. I don't know why this light is crazy. It's making me look like I'm on fire. You want a ridge line for that purpose. And reality being what it is, you don't have to have a ridge line. Some hammocks come with a ridge line built in, like the Ninox. Some hammocks, like the Explorer, do not. On our Paris hammock, we have the option to add a ridge line, but you don't have to have a ridge line. In fact, if you're just hanging out in your hammock, you're not going to see a huge benefit in the ridge line. But if you're sleeping in your hammock, I would strongly encourage you to investigate a ridge line. They are going to make your setups more consistent. Before I dive deep into all the nitty-gritty of ridge lines and everything there is to know about them, let me jump in and just show you so I can give you an idea of, well, I'm just going to take you with me actually. I'm going to take you with me and get into each one, and I really just want to tell you how it feels. So, to be fair, the top hammock is much higher than I would ever recommend for you to set up in, but you know, I don't really care. I just do stuff. All right, hang tight because this is going to get messy. Oh gosh, it got really messy. Oh boy. All right, so here we go. You're back with me now. And we're back. So I am in the top hammock that does not have a ridge line on it. And this is basically an example of what happens when you hang your hammock super tight. It's also a very small hammock for me. Now, I mean, it's not miserable. There's definitely worse ways to sleep. If you had to, you could do it. But let me just tell you a little bit about what it feels like. So what it feels like to me is my shoulders are squeezed. I've got pressure under my knees because my feet are basically a little bit higher than my butt, and yeah, basically I can just feel the hammock kind of squeezing me, and that's what's going to be typical. You're going to feel the hammock just pulled tight. It's going to kind of squeeze on your shoulders a little bit, and that's going to be what generally happens when you hang in a hammock super tight without a ridge line. Now, the hammock below, let me see if I can do this. This is not going to work very easily, I don't think. Let's see if I can just fall into this guy. Oh yeah. Okay. You still with me? Oh, you flipped around on me. There we go. All right, we're back. Excuse me while I get my gimbal right. Okay. Whew. This is much better. Whoop. Sorry about that. All right. The light is just crazy on today. All right, so yeah, this is money right here. Okay, so wow. Okay, night and day difference, right? So, you know, a ridge line is going to make a big difference in any hammock, really. I mean, so step one, I would suggest you need to be sized correctly to your hammock. But after that, a ridge line is going to make a huge difference. The Ninox that I'm in right now is a 11.5 foot hammock, and it has a ridge line fixed to it at the appropriate length for our design. I'll go over some details about why in a little while, but basically I just want to tell you how it feels. So, I mean, it feels like I'm just hanging in the air, like my body is just levitating in the air. I don't mean that to sound like salesy, but there's literally no pressure along my back, my shoulders, my legs. My feet are at the same elevation basically as my butt. So it feels completely different with the Ridgeline of the Ninox and the way the Ninox is designed. It's also a bigger hammock, which is good for my body. I'm a 6'2", 190-pound guy. But that's a huge, huge difference in comfort when you have the Ridgeline attached. Again, this is the number 2 most important thing that you can change if you're hammock camping and not getting a good night's sleep. And anybody that is sleeping in the air should be getting a wonderful night of sleep. It's such an enjoyable way to sleep outside. Now, I'm going to take you up to my computer and my outside office, and I want to show you a couple of things on the computer that's going to help this be a little more practical and applicable, and it's a lot more of the teaching aspect. So hang tight, let's switch over to the computer. Ready? All right. Now, this is my current outside office. When I first got into Sierra Madre, I always said I was going to have an outside office. Love it. And when the temperature's right. All right, anyways, let's get into it. So, again, sag. I've got a couple of notes here that I just want to go over with you that'll help kind of give you some general rules of thumb when it comes to ridge lines and how to get the right sag. So as you can see here, we've got the Paris hammock and a ridge line here. You can see the amount of sag that person is achieving thanks to the ridge line. There's a couple of different aspects of why this is so important, but basically what it does is it gives your hammock the ability, gives you the ability inside of your hammock to lay diagonal. Let me see if I got a quick picture of a diagonal lay here. All right, here we go. So you can see this. When you hang a hammock really tightly, you're going to be straight in your hammock, and that's going to be a problem. When you use a ridge line, you're going to use the right portion of the hammock to allow you to get diagonal in the hammock. And the ridge line makes this happen. It's the sag that really allows this to happen. Let's get back up here. So let's talk about a few things about ridge lines. So in general, a good starting point for a ridge line is usually about 78 to 83% of your hammock length. Now that's just a general rule of thumb. Every hammock is a little different. Every person is a little different. Some designs are going to bode well to specific number, and some designs are going to be more flexible and allow for adjustability. It just depends on the hammock. So in general, an 11-foot hammock would need somewhere around 109.5-inch ridge line. Okay, a lot of people use 11-foot hammocks. If you're 6 foot, I would recommend starting there. Don't go anywhere below that. That's just a recommendation. Again, so a longer ridge line is going to equal less sag, and a shorter ridge line is going to equal more sag. Now, the things that play into this are your hammock length and your hammock width. The hammock width is going to make a big difference in how much sag your hammock can actually afford. That's all built into the design, okay? Note this is just a starting point. You may prefer something a little bit different, but in general, this works really well. All right, here's an example of the same image. This is, the sag I was talking about, and this is no sag. You can see just how much tighter everything is around this hammock, and it's because there's no sag, and there's a couple of other design elements about the hammock that I won't go into right now. But that's the biggest difference I can show you. This is going to make a lot of sense, and this is really what it's all about. When you boil it all down, you can achieve good sag without a ridge line. Now, some people might be like, what? No, you can't. But you can. You can achieve a good sag without a ridge line. What's important is that you're going to be very limited on the amount of trees that you can use when you're in the wild if you don't have a ridge line. And so This is a good example. You've got two trees here. This is a person with a ridgeline. Same two trees. This is a person without a ridgeline, and you're going to be able to achieve the same sag because the tree distance is the same. Okay, it's short. You know, if you've got a 9.5 foot span between your trees, it's going to be just like having a 9.5 foot ridgeline or thereabouts. But when you expand, you can see on the side where the trees are spread apart that there's going to be a big difference between a hammock with a ridgeline and a hammock without a ridgeline. This is really where the rubber hits the road on having a ridgeline. So if you're out in the wild and you're trying to find a set of trees, and you have to set up on something between 10 and 15 feet, that's going to change your sag dramatically. Okay, and so at a 10-foot section, as you can see here, this might be 15 feet. The hammock with the ridgeline is going to basically look pretty much the same. Now you're going to have to hang the suspension up a little bit higher, okay? But it's going to look about the same when it comes to a sag visual. And more importantly, it's going to feel the same. When you hang without a ridgeline, you're going to see that you could hang your suspension at basically the same spot or even lower, but you're taking all of the sag away from the hammock. And you're going to have, it's going to be much tighter around your side. It's going to kind of squeeze on your shoulders, and you're going to feel that pressure under your knees without a ridgeline. So that is the main differences, right? And we talked a little bit about the whole reason of all of this is so that you can get a great diagonal lay while you're in your hammock, okay? When you're straight on, it's going to be very uncomfortable. It's going to be kind of like this. When you're straight on, you're going to feel more like a banana than when you are diagonal. And again, we've got several different hammocks that have ridgeline options, and the Ninox comes with a ridgeline option. Let me talk a little bit about that because I mentioned that earlier. The Ninox is designed with an aggressive sag. It's a really deep sag, and that's specific to the Ninox because of how wide it is and the shape of the curve, the casing curve that we built into the Ninox. We built in something called a comfort wave shape pattern into the Ninox, and basically we redesigned the casing and the way it works. And in order to maximize that design and the width of it, we incorporated a fixed ridgeline into it because it's going to give basically the right lay every time you get into it. And it is 75% of the total length. So it's an extremely deep hammock. But when you get in it and you feel the comfort from it, it is insane. It's very comfortable. That's where the flat lay comes from, the Ninox flat lay hammock. So anyways, that's a little bit about the Ninox and the specifics behind it. With the Paris, we actually had a little bit shorter ridgeline or a longer ridgeline, so it's a little bit less sag. The Paris has just a normal rectangular shaped casing, but it has our Teflon 3 fabric that's extra wide, and it is incredibly comfortable also. Not quite as flat as the Ninox, but very close, a close second for sure. It is a netless option, and the Ninox is a netted option. And so those two do have a little bit different, pros and cons related to those. So anyways, if you're interested in checking out one of our hammocks, I'll put a link below, and you'll see that the Paris, you could add a ridgeline to that, and the Ninox actually comes with a ridgeline. It's already fixed. You don't even have to think about it. You just string it up with the talons, no knots, just string it up, and it'll do all the work for you, which is really nice. in finding the right spot for you to be in when you're in your hammock. But it's super important. Again, this is the number 2 most important thing when it comes to getting comfortable in a hammock. Having the right amount of sag, and to do that, you're going to need a Ridgeline. Hope that was helpful. I love you guys, and I hope that you're able to get out and enjoy some of this beautiful weather we've been having. I know it's snowing like crazy up north. Anyways, take care. Be safe. I'll see you on the trail. Remember, we're Sierra Madre. I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, like it, hit a comment, share it, something. I would really appreciate that. That'll tell all the algorithms that you care about the content that you receive today. We're going to start doing this a little more regularly. So smash, destroy that like button, destroy that share button or that subscribe button. That'll be super helpful for us, and it'll just let us know that you enjoyed it and that you'd like to see more of this. We're Sierra Madre. We make the most comfortable gear for the wild. Much love. See ya.